Saturday, February 25th, 1995. I'm at the home of Geraldine Antku, a native of Hastings. Her home is here on Hillside Avenue in town, and she's going to reminisce with me, about her experiences in Hastings during World War II. Hi, Gerry.
Hi.
Okay, now first of all, the first question I'd like to ask you is this: where were you when you first heard the news about Pearl Harbor being attacked?
Well, my niece was christened on that Sunday, and after we came home, we had a big party at the house, and we had the radio on, and it had said that Pearl Harbor was really, really blown up, and we were heartbroken.
Right. That was December 7th, 1941.
That's right.
So your niece was born just before
Thanksgiving.
So she was just a couple of months old.
That's
Not
right.
even a couple.
No.
When the war broke out.
That's right.
When we were attacked.
That's true.
Okay, so of course you were heartbroken, your whole family. All right, now how about, what were you doing at that time in your life? You were out of high school already?
Oh, yes. I was a telephone operator at Synthesis Chemical.
Oh, okay.
And I went with Charlie since we were kids in school, really.
Charlie Antku.
Charlie Antku.
Also a native of Hastings.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
So you continued on with your job, of course.
Yes. And then he went down and enlisted,
Oh.
passed his physical, and he was supposed to go January, but instead they sent notice and he would have to go February the 3rd.
1942?
42.
1942.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so in other words, he went and enlisted shortly after war was declared.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, most of the boys felt that way.
Yes, that's
because
true.
it was us. We were the ones that were attacked.
That's
you
true.
know, and that was a terrible, terrible thing.
That's true. So Charlie went in and joined the
Marines.
Marines.
Yes.
Okay. And so then what happened with Charlie? He went off to train.
Paris Island.
All right.
And he was there about, I don't think he was there, maybe, I'll say 6 months, but I don't think that long, when he
Okay.
was sent overseas.
Oh my golly.
Yeah.
You were just engaged to at this point. You weren't married?
Yeah. No, we weren't married, no. And then he went to Guadalcanal, Peleliu, Cape Gloucester, and I can't remember where else. Oh, he was there for a long, long time with the 1st Marine Division.
Oh,
They were the first ones to land on Guadalcanal.
That's right.
1st Marine
That's
Division.
right. Okay.
And letters were written back and forth, and we used to send cookies and cigarettes and whatever he wanted when he sent the letter home that he thought he could use.
How was the mail then? I mean, did you get it pretty regularly, or did you have to? Were there a big span of time between letters, or?
Well, at first there was,
Right.
but after a while it came, I would say, pretty regularly. Not bad considering the size of the war.
That's right. That's right.
And and then he would write down, oh, he wished he had cookies, or he wished he had cigars, or he wished he had. So we'd all pack, his family and I would pack them and send them off to him.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. When Gerry, when did he get his first leave and come back to Hastings after this duty?
When we got married.
And that was what date?
In 1944. And we got married December the 2nd, 1944.
so
he never had a leave.
He never did.
No.
So you had a year and a half after his enlistment and having gone overseas before you saw him again, and then you got married.
Well, I saw him a couple of times. He came home just for a little visit, only overnight, and had to go right back.
I see.
When he was in this country. But then once we went over there, no, he never came back until he came back when we got married.
Oh, and how long a time did he get off for the marriage? How long was
I
the
think it was
leave?
about a month he got off.
Well, he had been in battle, so he was entitled to some time.
Yeah.
Good.
And then we moved down there to Paris Island.
How exciting for
And
you!
I lived in Beaufort, and then I lived in Port Royal. That's the last train would come in. That was the only train that would have to stop there. There was no other way it could go. Port Royal.
This is Paris Island, South Carolina?
Yes.
South Carolina.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, you got married here in Hastings.
Yes.
Got married.
St. Matthew's Roman Catholic Church, 6 p.m.
Oh.
Candlelight. All the lights were out, and they lit every candle in church. He was in his dress uniform.
Oh, Gerry.
Yeah. And Toy McGuire, his brother-in-law, that was on the PT Boat 109 with President Kennedy, the radio man. He was Charlie's best man, and my sister Bebs was my maid of honor. And all the other boys were away. My brother wasn't here. Charlie's brother wasn't here. My brother-in-law wasn't here. They were all away at war.
Oh.
And then they had the rationing of food, so we had to have it down. Remember Metz's?
Oh,
on
sure,
Whitney Avenue?
sure.
And all we could have was chicken. Because they had the food.
There was no beef, there was no pork, there
so
was
we
nothing.
had that, but it was lovely, very nice. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great. So you
Yeah.
had your wedding and your reception right here at home, and
Yeah.
get married in his dress uniform.
Yeah.
How exciting!
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was a handsome guy.
Oh, he certainly was. And
Yeah.
and I have to say, Gerry has some very beautiful mementos that are here with us now, and she's consented that she will lend them to the display when you have the World War II display at the cottage. Okay, Gerry. So then, after your marriage, you went directly with him back to the base.
Yes, yes. Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I was having a baby. Chuck was supposed to be my oldest boy. He was supposed to be born in Paris Island. But I had to get out of my little bungalow, which was actually not much of a bungalow.
Yeah.
Because in those days it was boondock days, it wasn't
Right.
built up like it is now
No,
at all.
no.
And I figured I'd come. So I came back to Mama, and I had the baby here.
But that was a couple of years after.
That was a year after.
Oh, a year after,
Yeah,
that's right, yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Oh, you got
yeah.
married in 43, I'm thinking
Yeah,
of when he joined
yeah,
up, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, right. So, you stayed down there the whole time,
Yes.
just before the baby was born, you came back home?
Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
So, in the meantime, back home, how did your mom feel about you going to live on the base?
Oh, when we got married, well, she was very lonesome for me, and I had never left home. I was never out of Hastings. I mean, as far as for
Living anywhere else?
that's right.
Is
no,
that
I was
right?
born here. I was born in Hastings.
Went
yeah.
to school here,
My
took your
mother and
job
father
here?
met here when they were like 12 years old. That's how old they were, from Pennsylvania.
Oh, my
And
God.
they went to school here. Then they got married, and then my mother had 5 children. And I never was away. And every Friday while I was down at Paris Island, Beaufort or Port Royal, I would call my mother, and the operator say 3 minutes are up. And all I'd do is cry. I was so lonesome. Because
Oh.
things were so different then, too.
Having never lived anywhere else
No,
but home, I
no.
mean,
And
in
then
Hastings.
You didn't know, I'd never know if Charlie would be called to go back overseas. He thought he would be at one
Right.
time. And I thought, oh my, what will I do? Well, my mother said, well, you have to come home to me. What else could you do?
Sure.
So I did.
You did that,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Uh-huh.
In the meantime, you just said before, with your wedding right here in town,
Yeah.
a lot of your family members, your brother wasn't home?
No, my brother wasn't home.
Charlie's
brother
brother?
wasn't home. George was, my brother-in-law wasn't home. No, they were all away. Although Uncle John, Charlie's brother, he came home the next day and wondered who was in his apartment, and it was Charlie and I.
Oh,
Yeah,
my goodness.
yeah,
He got to
see?
leave, but it was after the wedding,
Yeah.
a day or so
yeah,
after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. He came home.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh,
yeah.
Gerry. I was in high school during the war, and I knew
know.
that, everyone kind of knew where people were, for instance, people that
Our
we've known
local
all our
boys.
lives.
Yeah.
And we knew that Charlie was overseas all that
Yeah.
time, and some of the others. And I knew that you had gotten married. I probably even saw your wedding, but I was just a
Yeah.
kid in school. I don't
Yeah.
remember too much, but I do remember that my mother saying Gerry is going to live in South Carolina with her husband. I guess
Yeah.
this was, people knew this in town.
That's right. Yeah.
So that was some exciting thing to do, move out of
Yeah,
Hastings.
it was. I'd do it all over again if I had to do it, but the life is altogether different down there than it was then.
Of
Remember,
course.
we were going way back years,
Of
you know.
course, of
And
course.
I never saw a cow eating the moss off the trees like I saw down there in my yard. And I go out on the porch, and underneath the porch, the chickens were laying eggs. I never saw any of that, people. Yeah.
You're a little small town girl, but you weren't a farm girl.
Please. And my kitchen, it had no windows. It had screens down there.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
it was some experience. They only had one store in Port Royal,
Uh-huh.
and then they only had a tiny, and that had the post office in it, and the liquor store on the other side of it. So that's the only store there was. I used to shop though in Paris Island.
At the PX.
Yes, and then I used to shop at the. Oh, I forget what they called it. You put $50. You had to put $50 down. You could buy the groceries there. What did they call it? I can't remember.
This is on the base, Jer?
Yes, yes.
Right.
And I'd go in on the base every day. And
Good.
yeah, every day I used to go drive in and drive out. And Charlie would come home almost every night. Only when there was a hurricane I was put off the island. I had to go to my own house, and he had to stay on.
Oh,
at
I see.
Paris Island.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you really got to see him a lot when you were down there at Paris Island.
Oh, when I was married to him, yeah, every
Yeah,
day, yeah,
that's good.
yeah.
See, if you hadn't gone down there, you'd be up here in Hastings, and
Yes.
what would be the point?
No, no, I just couldn't see that
So
myself.
you made the decision to go with him. That's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
That's wonderful. It's
Yeah.
very good. And meantime, back home here, what was happening? I mean, was your mom having a lot of problems getting food and stuff? Yeah, rationing and.
No, not then, because the war was like over.
No, I mean while you were there, before the war was
Oh
over.
yes, here
Sure.
they had problems. Here
Yeah.
getting
In
food.
fact, while you were in Hastings before you and Charlie were married,
Yeah.
you must remember all the rationing that went on.
Oh,
and the
yeah.
scarcity of things.
Yeah, and you had to close your curtains and your drapes at night here and all that. We did here, yeah. We
When you
had
had
the
air raid,
blackouts.
you had the air
Yeah.
raid drills.
Yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
sure. How
Uh-huh.
were things that you continued to work at Cinzer?
Yes.
How were things down there? I mean, were there a lot of guys were gone, right? So mostly women.
Yes. Well, there was a lot of Hastings boys that were really gone.
Yeah.
Quite a few out of Hastings that went in the service. And, yeah, it was a little lonesome.
Yeah, and things in town weren't quite the same. I mean,
No.
there weren't dances because
You
there
prayed all the time, I mean, for
Yeah.
them to come home and all that,
Sure.
you know.
and you kept track of the war, I suppose, but with newspapers and things.
Yes, yeah.
19, this would.
And the radios. And then Charlie would write every so often, and we'd get mail, and his mother would get mail, and I'd walked over to see his mother when he was at Guadalcanal, and, you know, tell her that I got a letter, or she got a letter, whichever way
You'd
it was.
exchange
Yes,
information with
yes,
each other.
we did, yeah, yeah.
Well, I think it's wonderful. I've been looking at some of these things that you have, these
Ah,
mementos,
yes,
and this little diary that he has is incredible.
yeah, that's a
He kept an
that's a
account.
powerful diary. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
and
real
and
personal, of course, but that's
yeah,
how he felt. He put
wonderful.
down just exactly how
That's
he felt.
wonderful. And you
Yeah.
have this beautiful
He was
picture.
never away from Hastings either.
No,
actually.
no, that's
No,
true.
you
These
know.
young guys went into the service and
Yeah.
they saw all this
Yeah.
action in foreign countries, and they didn't. They
Yeah.
had been brought in
Yeah.
small, brought up
Because
in
I know my
small
brother
towns.
Ed, he was over in the European, and he never came home, and he had to go right over to the Pacific. A lot of the boys did. They didn't get leave, you know.
They had
So
both the
that was-
European and
Yes,
Pacific.
yes.
Now Ed was in the army. No,
Yes,
on the
yes.
army.
Uh-huh,
Right, right.
yeah.
Well, Ed
Yeah.
didn't get married until after World War
Yes,
II, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
See,
Yeah.
so I know
Well,
that's the way it was in town. That we
Yeah,
watched the
it was
boys.
lonesome. It was lonesome. And
Right.
you worried all the time, that's for sure. And I'm sure those poor fellas worried even more than we did because they were right there in the action.
Sure.
So that, you know, it's
Sure.
not that easy. But
And then, besides being in the action and having to do all this fighting and things,
Yeah.
worrying about their loved ones at home,
that's the thing.
that's and being so
Yeah.
far away.
A
From
lot of
home.
them got Dear John letters. A lot
Oh,
of them
tell us
did.
about Dear Johns.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard about them. Now, what were they kind of things? They were not too
Well,
great.
let's say for instance, if for Charlie and I, if we were engaged, of course.
Yeah.
So that supposing all of a sudden I met somebody else, and then I would write Charlie a Dear John letter and say that, you know, this is it. I met somebody else, and this is what some of the poor fellows went through. A lot of them.
They'd get
got
these
that.
Dear John letters
Yes,
and be
that
really
means-
upset,
Oh, why wouldn't they? They're in the war zone and everything.
and their
and-
loved one is
yeah.
gone with someone else.
Yes, it. Yeah, yeah.
That's right. I recall that now.
Yeah,
The Dear John
yeah.
letters. Yeah, we talked about that.
And it was, and then Charlie met. Who did I say it was? Charlie was coming off for R&R off Guadalcanal, and
Okay.
Stephanie.
Oh,
John's brother.
yes, Stephanie Salvaggio's brother, Frank Culture. You said.
Yes, yeah.
You
And
met him.
He met him on the line coming in. He was in the Marines, and he was going into
Guadalcanal.
Guadalcanal, and Charlie was coming off for a rest. And he said he only knew Charlie because he was so dirty, but he only knew him by his big black eyes. That's it.
Oh,
The
he
way
recognized him.
right away. And
God.
of course, when Charlie went into the service, that boy Frank,
Yeah, Frank.
he was only a little kid, sort of, when
That's
Charlie
right.
left Hastings. So that he didn't believe that he had grown up so much, so fast.
And was old
to
enough
belong
now
to be in
to-
the Marines.
Oh,
He
my.
couldn't believe that. Yeah.
Ah, I didn't
Yeah.
realize that Frank was in the Marines. I didn't know which branch he was in. I knew he went in the service, but
Yeah.
so many of the boys were going. So wasn't that great? They met each other
Yeah,
from
that
home,
was the only one that Charlie ever met that was down in the Pacific.
from
yeah.
Hastings. That's the only
Yeah,
person.
uh-huh.
So that had to be what, maybe
I don't
1944
know.
or something, or 43?
Probably 44. Because Charlie was coming off. They were finishing up Guadalcanal when the young boy came in.
Oh, that would be, yeah, that would be, no, that would probably be more
Yeah.
like 43, because you
Yeah.
got married then December of 43, and he came home to get married, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that was probably, so he saw Frank there.
44. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
That was the only one that he ever saw from Hastings. Yeah.
Now, when he, as you say, you went and visited your mother-in-law who lived in town here also,
Yeah.
of course, because Charlie was a native,
Yeah.
and exchanged information about letters
other,
and
yeah,
stuff,
with
which
each other.
kept in touch.
Uh-huh.
So now, everybody in the family, I suppose, wrote to everybody else in the service, like your brother and
Oh, yes,
your mother,
yeah.
and everybody wrote to.
Oh, Charlie would write to my mother and his mother and to his sisters.
And
He'd
they
write,
also would write.
And they would write back and send packages and to my sisters, and they would do the same thing. And we did that with a lot of the boys from Hastings.
It was
We used to
important for
send
them to
cookies
get mail.
and things, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so important for them to get mail from home.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
To get mail
yeah.
from home. So,
Yeah.
oh, that's great, Jerry. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, And
a lot of years have gone by, but your memories
Yes.
are still pretty strong.
Yeah, a little bit. At times,
No, I
yeah.
think it's
Yeah.
wonderful. I
No.
think the
Well,
the
the books I
mementos.
kept were nice, I think. The
Oh,
special books that I
they're
kept.
priceless.
Yeah.
They're priceless books. There's a book here that's called a wedding book. Now explain. Tell me again. Tell me now on tape
Oh.
about the wedding book.
Oh,
This
well,
is what
years ago, when anybody would get married, we'd all buy a book that you could print in or write in or whatever you
An
could
album,
do.
yeah.
And a little album, like, and we would cover it with satin. And we would put a picture of a bride from a magazine. And then we would write stories about them and show pictures about them. And of course, I was the telephone operator at that time down in Cinders. And Mrs. Devlin, she put in beautiful, she had songs, different songs, you know, I'll be home for Christmas. And she wrote what else? And good night wherever you are. And then she wrote a poem to all of these songs. And the girls in Cinders made up a book for me. And I
And
still
it's
have it,
beautiful.
and that's over 50 years old.
It's beautiful. It is
Yeah.
absolutely priceless.
Yes.
It is
Yeah.
It's so wonderful that you kept it. So many people didn't keep these things.
Well, I
I'm
don't
so
know why I
glad
did, but I liked them all so much, and I kept the little book of Charlie's that I had made separately too.
which
and-
is lovely.
Yeah, and then I got the citation that he was on Guadalcanal. I kept all that, and then our wedding picture.
Of course, in
and
his
of course,
uniform and
this-
his booklet. Oh, wonderful!
Yeah.
Those are wonderful
It's falling
mementos.
apart, though. See, look.
It's still in good shape for the
Yeah.
number, you know. And he had
Yeah,
that.
and he had that in his pocket at Guadalcanal and Peleliu and all of them. He would never let that out of his sight.
Tell us, Jerry, about where he got that booklet.
Oh, where did you find that here?
He said that it was.
Yeah.
It was. He's written memories. Is recorded things in there.
Oh, he said this was a diary off a dead Jap who had no more use for it.
And there's Japanese writing in the back with the
Yes.
Japanese soldier.
I don't
And
know.
so then Charlie took it, and he made
Put
his own.
Made his own.
That is so
diary.
interesting. That is a really interesting
Yeah.
booklet.
See.
It's a little diary, and it's all filled with his.
All of his personal wishes and thoughts and dreams and of coming home and
Oh,
being with all of us all over again. And
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful memento. Oh, I hope you don't change your mind about allowing the cottage to put this on display when they have their display.
Oh, I don't know so much about the pictures of us here, because these are personal love letters. I don't know if they should go or not.
No, but you would only give us what you think we should
Yeah,
have,
because
or what you would want the
V-mail and all
public to see.
that.
But
See, these are-
V-mail, now that reminds me,
Yeah.
the V-mail
the
was
Christmas and
little
yeah.
tiny letters.
See,
Yeah.
see, and here's the first Marine Division Association, August the 6th, 7th, and 8th, 1949. That's when we went into New York, and they had their big party in the
Oh,
hotel.
post-war.
Yes.
Yeah, post-war. Right.
So, whatever you desire to want for the, see, here's the, this
Oh.
is one.
I think that's great. I mean, Jerry has in this album. She has her V-mail letters from her husband.
Yeah.
V-mail, little abbreviated forms, because the post. This is the way they did it during World War
Yeah.
II. The saved paper and everything.
Yeah.
Now tell me,
What?
you saved just the ones, certain ones. You didn't save every single letter.
Oh, no.
I
No.
guess there were so many.
Well,
it's
a lot
kind
of
of hard.
them, yeah, a lot of them you could hardly read when they came to you, actually. They
Right.
could have been ripped up and see, but these are all other ones.
This is wonderful, Jerry.
Yeah.
She has this little V-mail. It says, received Monday, December 27th, 1943.
Yeah, I wrote that in. That's when I got it from.
That is
yeah.
so great to
Yeah,
have
yeah.
that. I don't know where you had that. I don't know where I
I
heard it.
In the V-mail. See?
Beautiful. Oh, what a wonderful thing. Well, you decide which ones you would allow
Yeah.
to be on display because it will bring back memories to so many people.
Yeah. Well.
Not everybody saved these things.
And this is his what?
This is, pardon me, a prayer a day for my serviceman.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jerry has here a card to Corporal Charles Thomas Antku, U.S. Marine Corps. I promise to say a prayer for you each day at 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. while you are away at war. And it's signed. She has it, Miss Geraldine McKernan. Oh, Jerry, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And then the ones from the box of candy he sent me the last time he was in the United
She
States.
has
Yeah.
the label and the postmark from Oakland, California.
Yeah. That's the last
Box
box that
of
he could send me.
chocolates that he sent her
Yeah.
before he went over
To
to
Guadalcanal.
Guadalcanal.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. They're wonderful memories.
Yeah, see
Wonderful
how much you
moments.
appreciate this.
Oh,
right?
I do, Jerry.
Isn't that? Thank you.
I
think
do.
that's very nice of you.
Oh,
really.
but you know, that's
Yeah.
Hastings. Anybody from Hastings who lived here,
Yeah.
they were concerned about all of the men.
Oh yes.
All the boys in the
Well,
service.
there were very few families that weren't hit by that war.
That's right.
Very few that I know of, anyway.
That's right. They were indeed.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have here. This is a. Oh, he saved this. Huh?
That's from the
Oh,
candy. I did.
Oh, this is a little card that came with the. We arrived
Yeah.
in San Francisco Thursday, and we leave Saturday for parts unknown. I
Yeah.
am feeling fine, and hope you are the same. Please take good care of yourself, for I am very much.
Well,
I'm very much in love with you.
Well,
Ah,
yeah.
how beautiful.
Yeah, see, that was in the box of candy.
Jerry, you knew Charlie from high school, right? I mean,
Yes.
you were dating.
Well, he played on my father's St. Matthew Lyceum ball team, too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I really dated him when I went up to the school. Because I went to St. Matthew's school.
Oh,
first.
and then you went to high school.
And then I went to high school there, yeah.
Okay.
But
and
I
then,
had
then
no-
you started dating Charlie, and then you married him during the
Yeah,
war.
yeah.
What a good-looking couple.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to put this on
Oh,
just for a second. Okay, Jerry, I want to go back to the base for a little bit now. You were
Okay.
there during the war years, and
yes.
you said before, off tape, that you were expecting a baby,
Uh-huh.
and you were seeing a doctor on
Yes.
the base. And of course, if you had had the baby in Paris Island, you would have had it at the hospital on the base.
That's right.
But in April of that year, while you were pregnant, you came home
right.
on
For a
the
little visit.
for a little visit with Charlie. So
On
tell
the
us
train.
about that.
Yeah. We came home on the train.
That was April.
And I had a ham that I had in the refrigerator before I came home, so I figured I can't leave it there, throw it out. So I made sandwiches. And it was Good Friday, and we were on the train coming up to New York, and there was a priest sitting across from me. And I said, Father, I'm hungry, and I have to eat something. And I said, I only have ham sandwiches to offer you. And he said, oh, God bless you. He said, I haven't seen ham for about 3 or 4 years. I've been in the service and out of the service. And he said, I'll eat one too. And I was so glad. And that was the Good Friday that President Roosevelt died.
And you were coming up to visit home.
Yes,
With,
yeah. And
with Charlie.
I intended to stay home with my mother. But then I got a little bit lonesome when Charlie got on the train down at Penn Station. So I hopped on the train and went back with them.
Oh, Jerry. Oh, and you,
Yeah.
of course, you had a few months yet to go before
Yes.
your baby was
Yeah,
due.
that's right.
So then you stayed there with him, and the baby was due in September.
Yeah, right.
But
I came home in June because I had to get out of the house that I lived in. And I didn't want to go in one room. I went in one room when I first went down there with Charlie
right,
because I wasn't allowed on the base. And you couldn't have food or anything else. And there were servicemen all over the place that lived in different rooms with this woman. And I brought in a loaf of bread and a jar of mayonnaise and some ham. And I put it in the bureau because you weren't allowed to eat. But if I got hungry, at least I'd have that.
that's right. So you stayed there, and then you had to get out of your little house there because the war was over in Europe.
Yeah, well, I had to get out because it was a Marine and her husband was a Marine. And he was coming back to the States. And they wanted their little house, so I had to get out. So I figured, well, Mama said, come home to me, so I did.
Right. And so that was in July of 1945.
Yes, that was July,
Okay,
yeah.
that was before VJ Day, but it was
Yes.
after VE.
Right.
All right, so then you come back to Hastings.
Yeah.
And your baby's due in September. In the
Yeah.
meantime, the process is going on where he will be discharged.
Yeah, but I didn't know when. He'd call me and say, you know, he thought in a day or two or a week or two or whatever, and kept up. And then finally, this was before.
Okay,
And then he,
I just wanted to get to the part, because I think this is exciting, that you're home here in Hastings, you're waiting now for Charlie to be discharged, and
Yes.
he's not home in Hastings yet, and your baby's due,
Yeah.
so you go into the hospital and have your baby on September.
well, I went in like 26, but he was just here a few hours, 26, and went into the morning when Chuck was born. And the nurses said to me, oh, your poor husband, he is so tired, so exhausted. We gave him pillows and blankets.
Because
Charlie
he just
got home from
a
the
few-
train.
Right, a few
Yeah.
hours after your son was born.
Yeah.
On the same day your son was born.
Yeah.
He arrived back here.
Yeah, and the nurse
That's
said
wonderful.
he was tired. I said, well, so am I.
But wasn't it great that he
Yeah,
was? Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Jerry,
that was exciting.
Of course,
Very
of course.
exciting.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful news.
Yeah,
Okay, so now you're home,
yeah,
back in Hastings, back home again,
yeah.
and Charlie is discharged from the service.
Right.
So then what happens?
Well, then he went back to Anaconda and got his job back.
But before he went back, didn't you tell me earlier that for a little bit, until he was sure of what he was going to do, you were on the 5220? Or was that you were not one of those people?
5220. No,
Wait,
we didn't
wait,
get
wait.
them in the service, you mean, the pay?
Oh, the service.
Yeah,
Oh, I see.
no, that was the service. They weren't 52, they were less than that when Charlie went in.
Oh, no, I was talking about
Yeah.
the 5220 was when the guys came back from the service and didn't have a job to go to, and they didn't know what they wanted to do.
Oh, yes.
They collected $20 a week for 52 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Charlie went right back to his job.
Yeah,
Sure.
and then I think they were out on strike, so then he went.
Yeah. But then you settle down to being a family
Yes.
in civilian life.
This is your life. This
No, civilian life. 1945. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And at the time you came back to Hastings again and had your baby and you settled down with
Yeah.
your little family, were there a lot of guys back home now? Discharged, let's say, like your brother, was he out by this time, or do you recall? Or your brother-in-law, John?
They were a little bit longer coming out, I think.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they weren't in this country, a lot of them. See, a lot of them had to come back to their bases. I think that's what Charlie had to do.
That's
They
right.
all had to go back, and by the time they had them all screened, it could be months sometimes.
So some of them didn't come out until the
See, and
end
then
of
there
40.
were no planes like my boys in the service. They
No.
they all flew all over the world in the service. But I mean, Charlie had to come up from South Carolina, but he had to go to Georgia first to
Right.
get the train to come all the way up to New York.
Gee.
And one time when I was visiting Charlie in Washington, D.C., I got on the train to come back home here to Hastings, and I saw all the soldiers, and you'll never guess who was on that train.
Who?
And he told all the soldiers, he said, that's my cousin, that beautiful girl up there, that's my cousin. They said, come on, O'Hara, you're trying to kid.
No kidding.
So we were on the way up, and he came up to me and said, Gerry. I said, Harold, I can't believe this is you. And I said, you just missed Charlie. And they hadn't ever seen each other after that.
And that was what year, would you think?
That was a 43, 42. 42.
Oh, my
Yeah, he
God.
was coming up, but he was away down in South Carolina someplace, or in Florida. I forget where Harold O'Hara was.
I'll be
forget where his
darned. You met
And
your cousin.
the fellow said, oh, come on, you're kidding, because every girl you see is your cousin, you know. This is what he said. I was so glad I saw him. I was shocked.
I bet.
Yeah,
You didn't
yeah.
expect it at all.
No, not when you see hundreds. You know, they're in... Oh, no.
Yeah,
there
I
was
know.
so many of them that, no, what I did.
That's great. That's
Yeah,
so
so
good.
then he came all the way home with me, because he lived in Hastings too, Harold.
That's right.
So that was
Everybody,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, how different. And you think these things back when you go back, you know, thinking about things. Some of the things do come to you, you know.
Yeah, that's it. It's
Yeah.
one thing brings on another memory.
Yes, it does,
And
yes.
and these were
Yeah.
good memories to meet your cousin and
Yeah,
he's got to
that
come
was
home on a
a
leave.
shock, though, but I was sorry he didn't see Charlie, because they got along great together. But
That was
he
too
did,
bad.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well now
Yeah.
we've come to, we went back there to reminisce about the base because I
Yeah.
thought that was so interesting about you coming up from South Carolina for a visit in April,
Yeah.
pregnant, and
Yeah.
planning on maybe staying here till the baby arrived, and then you went
No,
back with your husband.
Yeah, I got right back on that train. I didn't even have a ticket. No, I said, no, I will. And then then when he took me home in July, we came up by, in his car, in the car.
Oh, you drove up.
Yeah,
Long ride.
yeah.
Oh, okay. I think we've come to the end of this side. Okay, I was wrong, Jerry. We did not come to the end. And now I want to tell you, tell the listener about that Jerry handed me this card, which is a special pass, Marine Barracks, Paris Island. It has her picture on it and her name, Mrs. Charles Antku. It's dated 12/28/44, and it is valid until it was revoked, I guess, till after the war ended. And this was her pass to get on the base as the wife of Corporal Charles Antku. And she's agreed that she will let us also have this for display.
Yes, it is.
Okay. This is running? Okay. So, Jerry,
Yeah.
I want to thank you for the interview. I know that people who hear this interview will be extremely pleased, and they will also be thankful that you gave it, because you're giving a perspective of Hastings World War II that I hadn't had before, or that they may never have heard. And this is for posterity. Your
This is my
grandchildren,
life?
yes, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren someday may come to the cottage and take the tape out and listen to all of the things that happened during World War II to you and to their grandfather,
That's
Charles
right.
Antku.
Yes.
I want to thank you. I think it is incredibly gracious of you to allow me to do this tape, and also for you to say that you would lend us some of these mementos that you have when the Historical Society has the World War II display. Not many people save stuff like this, and your things are really wonderful and
Thank you.
priceless. And I thank you again,
Yeah.
Jerry.
I thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Good. Okay.
I hope I told you everything that I could sort of remember.
I think you did wonderfully. Thanks again.
All right, thank you,
Okay.
Ann.